So this is a little elementary, but for those of you who have never done this, I'm going to show you how to do it. So to separate the transmission from an engine, an automatic transmission is what we're talking about here. You got to get the bolts or the nuts off of the flywheel, and or I'm sorry, flex plate in this case. Flywheel is for a manual transmission, but these are the nuts that hold the converter to the flex plate, and so you got to get all of those off first. And when you have an engine out of the car, obviously there's no battery power or starter, so you have to actually be able to rotate the crank to actually access each bolt, or in this case, nut. So, set you guys up right there, get it rolled over a little bit more. I could have probably gotten that one off without rolling it over, but for just demonstration's sake. And now this is kind of a double lock situation here, so I've got a stover nut, which is also called a top lock nut. So it has a locking mechanism built into the shape of the nut. It's kind of an oval in the top. I've talked about these before, but if you look closely, there's an oval that actually mechanically jams the threads of the nut, keeping it from rolling off. And then the other locking provision is obviously blue Loctite. Alright, roll over one more time. I believe there's only 4 on this. And it's going to depend on your manufacturer and style of torque converter. Always like to just get them loosened up, and then you can use this ratcheting wrench. An offset wrench would probably be better. Yeah, so this will break the mechanical connection from the crank to the transmission. And then the rest of it is just bell housing bolts. It's pretty simple. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So now, let's get these bolts off. And again, this is very elementary for you car experts out there. There's a lot of them on the internet. If you ever wondered how many there are, it's infinite. Tag and tag those. One thing I do regret when I put this thing together is I forgot the intermediate plate, or I can't remember, I think it's called a dust plate or dust shield that goes between the engine and the bell housing itself. I just completely forgot, and it's over next to my toolbox and fridge, so it's gonna go in when we put this thing back, which is hopefully sooner than later, pending our results from our investigation. Now you don't have to freak out about, will it just completely collapse? No. In this case, there's still 2 bolts in the bell housing, but I am going to get some tension on this chain, because I have to lift the engine up anyway. I'm not going to lift it up really high. I'm just going to put some support on it, so when I do break the transmission away, the engine doesn't move in a bad spot. So I'm going to go grab a wrench real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got the cherry picker hooked up. Still got 2 bolts in the flywheel or flex plate. And I'm just going to take some tension off. Put some tension into this leather. And both these bolts are bent. A little sketchy, but I'm not picking up the transmission with the engine this time. It's just going to be the engine. Just to steady it while I remove everything left. There's some dowels in the back of the block housing that locate the bolt holes for you. So when you're putting these things two together, you really can't screw it up, in other words. Unless the dowels are missing, of course, but the bolt holes are generally going to guide you where you need to be. It's a bit of a dance, but with a couple of two pairs of hands, it's usually really easy. Hands is going to move around a little bit once I unhook it because it's got a sump in the bottom of the oil pan right there. It's going to tell it to tilt. Hopefully not tilt off my little dolly here. Hopefully. Alright, get you guys set up here. Sorry, I thought the nose of my converter was ground down for some reason, but it seems to be fine. Looks like someone machined it at some point. That's what I'm talking about. See how there's a stepped edge on this? I'm not sure if that's intended like that or just for this specific crank, but yeah, so that's the flex plate. That's gonna come off next, because I have to reseal the oil pan and rear main. All right, so something you may notice different about these flex plate bolts is that they are 12 point. So here is an example of a 12 point socket. Most sets come with both, but as you can see, not every socket is a 12 point. So you got to keep that in mind. Usually super high-end hardware will have 12 point bolts. It can be annoying on the side of the road when you're trying to fix something with your to-go toolbox, but always have 12 points in your arsenal. So that could be bad, if not. And I've had some starter gronching on this thing, and I've got a high torque starter, one of the gear reduction ones with the permanent magnets, which save a lot of space. But what's happening is when I engage the starter, every so often, it's not every time, it will make the gnarliest sound, like kind of like a Chevy small block or GM starters do sometimes. And it's not, I'm not knocking on them, they just have a reputation for having that. If you don't shim those starters, they'll have that awful sound sometimes. But it's kind of like that. I'm trying to describe it the best I can. But I don't see any evident damage to the flex plate here. And it's a SFI approved flex plate, meaning it will not frag if it breaks, or it takes a lot to frag one of these. So I guess we'll find out. I'll talk to my engine builder and see what he thinks. I looked at the starter pinion gear, which is the little gear that jumps out to start it, and it looked fine too, but those teeth are a lot farther apart, so it's hard to tell if there's any material missing on those. This flywheel's being stubborn. There we go. So the SFI approval sticker is right there. It's got a serial number on it, and this is important because if these come apart or if they fragment, it will become a large saw at the RPM your engine is turning, and it will cut through everything. So it's cheap insurance, just buy a good one. All right. There's no leaks here. And the crank main actually doesn't seem like it was leaking. I think it might just be a pan seal. So I'm gonna get this thing up in the air and get it on the engine stand. Alright, so I'm back with some bolts. Make sure these go through. Just like they do. Throw a washer on each one of them. No lock washer, just flat washers. One grade 5. Do you guys know about the grading system on bolts? So the most common two you're going to see is grade 5 is I would say the more common one. So see how there's 3 slashes there? That's a grade 5. So this is a, I would say, middle of the road, very common bolt. This is, with the 6 slashes, this is a grade 8 bolt. And this is way heavier duty as far as shear strength goes. So now you know. And they make them in all shapes and sizes, as you would imagine. And the grading scales keep going up when you get into higher end materials. Did you know NASA actually used to have bolts with their logo on the heads of them? And I had a few of them back in the day, and they're called, or NASA called them, fog bolts. And they were used to assemble, you know, rockets and space shuttles and stuff of that sort, as you would imagine. But FOG stands for found on ground. And if any hardware falls on the ground, like us car guys drop hardware all day long, and then we pick it up and put it right back on the car. Well, the guys at NASA don't, and just don't risk it. So I get it. I wouldn't want to have any sort of failure due to dropping a piece of hardware on the ground. That would be really embarrassing. It's not like you can pull over to the side of the road and call a tow truck. Nope. Okay. Yeah, you don't want to just blindly start tightening a bolt in the back of your block until you know if it's too long or not. It could be too long, and you could make a blind hole and open hole. It is possible. Usually they stop. You just don't want to use an impact for something like this because you won't know. This is why I don't use impacts for stuff like this, because there's no feel to it. And usually, you know when you're stripping a bolt or stripping threads, you can feel it. That's what we're trying to avoid by doing that by hand.